On this episode of AV Week, the CTA is putting the CES into a virtual format for 2021. Microsoft Teams helps the NBA get back into the swing of things. And Integrate Baltimore hopes to bridge the digital divide. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 467, recorded Friday, July 31st, 2020. Hybrid.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Extron, industry-leading technology backed by world-class support.
And by
Peerless AV, driving technology through innovation.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week, easy for me to say, Mr. Chris Hope from Loop Lab up in Boston Way. Welcome, sir.
Hi. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely, absolutely. Also with us is Jimmy Caldera from IAS Technology, just about 2.5, 3 hours due north of me. Depends on how fast you drive. How are you, sir?
I am excellent. Glad to be back on.
Absolutely. And last but not least, the only lady that I got to meet through our buddy Megan Dutta and the SCN AVIT Summit, which we'll talk about in a bit, Gladys Mariquin. And Gladys is from Newcomb and Boyd in Atlanta. Welcome, ma'am.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Absolutely, absolutely. So our first story comes to us from our own website, AVNation.tv. CES, the biggest technology trade show in the world, is going virtual.
Nice.
Already. CTA.
No one saw that coming.
I honestly didn't, Jeremy, and we'll get to that in a second. But CTA, the Consumer Technology Association that owns the show, announced this week that the January 2021 version of the event will be all digital, citing the growing global health concerns in regards to COVID-19. The move and that the all digital CES 2021 will be quote unquote a highly personalized experience for attendees. So, Jeremy, what does this mean? What does this mean that, number one, they're doing it already? We're talking about this the end of the last Friday of July. This will post the first Monday of August. Not quite 6 months, but let's call it 6 months just for the heck of it to round it out. But also, what does it mean for the live events industry that's already suffering and struggling now?
I mean, I don't want to be that guy and say what I'm thinking, Tim.
Why? That's why I have you.
I don't know, man. Live events, get ready for 2022. It's going to be your next time before we're doing anything. That's just my gut feeling, right? I just think they're going to drag this out longer and longer and longer. And the more we see it, there's going to be ups and downs and everything with the whole COVID thing. So I think we're just this is a foreseeable future. So personalized experience though, I mean, that sounds cool. I kind of want to know what that's going to be, right? But not a lot of detail here on that yet. So,
well, as long as they can pull it off, right? I mean, that's the one thing, is to promise one thing, but to be able to pull it off is a whole other thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, right? I mean, there's 100 different ways they can do this event, right? And I think that as we've learned from previous events, there's good things, there's bad things, and no one knows, right, what's gonna be successful, what's not gonna be successful. So it's gonna be a learning curve. Like I said previously, the good thing that's going to come out of all of this is that when we go back to, and I know there will be a when, right? When we go back to this whole in-person trade shows and large events and things like that happening, the benefit that's going to come of that is hybrids, like a hybrid show, right? A lot of virtual, a lot of in-person, which is going to be bringing what they found success virtually to the live show, which is just going to make it all that much better, right?
Yeah. Chris, Jeremy brings up the hybridness, I guess, if I can make up a word, of the future of trade shows. What does this, though, mean, the fact that CES and the CTA have already, I guess, called or moved to the virtual realm? What does this mean for the rest of, maybe even the rest of the first quarter and into the second quarter of 2021? You've got NAMM, which typically traditionally happens in Anaheim. You've obviously got ISE, which is the world's biggest AV trade show. Shortly after that, you've got South by Southwest. You have Enterprise Connect. You have NAB. I could continue on until we get to June in InfoComm. So what does this mean for the first two quarters?
I'll just let the cat out of the bag. Really, what we're going to see is, unfortunately, a continuation of the virtual permutation of these shows. When we look at some shows or conferences like Build or GTC Digital, they're going to go all digital for the foreseeable future, absent a vaccine. The days of completely having an in-person experience at conferences, unfortunately, is going to have to adjust to a new normal. As Jeremy shared earlier, this hybrid model might be the best kind of model that you might see in 2021. I sit on the board of South by Southwest, specifically their Design and Innovation Conference, or the Design Conference. And that was a huge decision that was made as being one of the biggest, if not the biggest or largest conference in the first quarter. And to see the ramifications of that cancellation throughout the entire year, similarly, it set a chain reaction, and that's still having momentum to this day. So I think that just seeing kind of where we're headed, you can expect more of the same, unfortunately. I don't think that's going to change until you have a vaccine that's out there. And even then, it's going to be some kind of hybrid style. I mean, the fact of the matter is, this is the new normal. And it's not what we want to hear. It's not what we like. It's not the medicine that tastes good. And it's just the reality.
Yeah, I've come up to a rule for myself that every time somebody says pivot in the new normal, I have to take a drink. Today it's iced tea, but usually it's something else. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Right.
Sorry, Tim. I want to show you really quick what I have posted right next to my computer screen.
Do not say new. I appreciate that.
Do not say new normal.
Yeah, do not say new normal. I appreciate that.
I stuck that up there right before this. So.
Well, but Chris, you make a good point. The week that South by Southwest cancels, and I will probably remember this until I'm no longer here.
Yes.
That was a hellacious week because because that was a domino, right? That was the first one, right, Chris?
Absolutely. It was a very stressful time, and you can imagine how much money obviously goes into these conferences, especially for South by Southwest, where you have essentially the economic ecosystem of an entire metropolitan area that is largely dependent upon this conference going off well. And so the pressure is there, and ultimately I think the call was the right call in terms of public health and safety and the most humane thing to do. And as we see, this thing has a domino effect. When other major conferences saw that, they said, okay, this thing right here is this is definitely a lot larger than I think folks anticipated it would be. And I also, the Loop Lab, we were going to do some things at Coachella this year. And sure enough, they canceled Coachella, or in their terms, they rescheduled it, and now they've completely canceled it.
Yeah, they rescheduled it possibly 2021, 2022.
I know. So you're just going to be seeing this unfortunately happen. I will say the way that I'm looking at a lot of the tech conferences now, it reminds me of like Netflix, kind of the on-demand style of, in that way, as a consumer, you get a chance to kind of pick and choose.
That's an interesting analogy.
It is very much an on-demand style approach to actually consuming the content from these conferences, which I think, as being at these conferences, so much is happening, and a lot of it's simultaneous. So you have to really be diligent in picking and choosing what you can attend to. Whereas this, I think the benefit of this is, you can catch up to it later on if you would like to, as long as you pay for a membership or you pay some kind of fee and you have access to that content. So I do think that there's some opportunity here in a positive direction. And I also want to acknowledge the loss that's being created because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Gladys, this has actually turned into an interesting, I didn't expect the whole, that was a fantastic Netflix on-demand thing. I like that, Chris.
Thank you.
As an attendee or even somebody who's helping folks, because Gladys spends a lot of time with education environment, and those folks, regardless of whether it's K-12 or higher ed, are still trying to figure things out depending on what region you're in and what university you're talking to. But as AV professionals, what can we do to help them kind of, do that transition and move to a new, I'm going to say it, to the new normal of a hybrid. I know, I said it. How they're, but what can we do with our skills to help them?
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, as we've come to the consensus, it's a very tricky situation. Obviously, there's a loss in the job market, but like Chris is saying, there's a lot of opportunity, right? So we could kind of emphasize maybe some more automation, maybe, more streaming devices, kind of, keeping their network in mind, of course, but kind of sort of the hybrid solution, as Jeremy was saying. I think that's probably where we're going to end up going. And one of the important things to note here is just kind of how this virus is spreading, and just kind of taking note of the R naught and how easily it's spread. We've been kind of, most of the United States, we're kind of enforcing masks and things like that. I've seen people with like the plastic cover. So you have the mask and the plastic cover, and that gives you some pretty good protection. So I think there is a great opportunity for hybrid. Maybe, everybody that wants to attend, they RSVP, they have to get tested, they get quarantined to kind of make up for this huge loss. Maybe we can accommodate in some way, but definitely most of it will be virtual, I think. And again, like I said, a hybrid solution, more streaming, those sort of solutions are going to be what we see. And like you're saying with K through 12, even colleges, it's just kind of, the situation is kind of changing day by day. So in my region, the South, there are some colleges that want to go back to face-to-face. Some of them want to have classes outside. That's not, obviously no AV is going to work there, right? I mean, nobody's going to roll up a camera and a mic, right? And the whole rig. But so there's a lot of things happening, and we just kind of have to some extent, improvise, yeah. Right? But yeah, the hybrid solution is really kind of where I see the trend going.
Thanks so much for watching this first segment of AV Week. To check out the rest of the episode for free, click on the link below. I'll go by the website, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv.